As part of a service design class at UIUC, we organized a field trip to a local healthcare provider called Urbana Acupuncture. By the time of our visit, students were immersed in their final service design project, exploring what well-being meant for them on campus and what kind of services they could design to meet their needs. We visited Urbana Acupuncture after using service design visualization tools to study the concept of health equity and issues of discrimination, affordability, and accessibility in healthcare systems. Urbana Acupuncture provides access to acupuncture treatment in a community setting. During the field visit, students identified the service infrastructure, including the touch points, user journey, and physical space that make up the service experience, thus learning the front and back end components of services. Choosing the service was intentional, because the model of community acupuncture confronts us with the reality of how to provide a service that has to logistically and financially sustain our time without compromising commitment to equity and justice. We learned that this kind of service needs a different logic than the one we are used to in mainstream healthcare. For instance, the payment system uses a sliding scale. This ensures that patients can afford regular and frequent treatments. We learned about the power of healing together in a community space, about the tone and wording to speak about our bodies, the role of non-invasive, gentle treatment versus quick solutions to deeper problems, and more. Part of this commitment to equity and justice was to expose and engage students in a service that has an important history of radical provision of healthcare for vulnerable communities. We researched this history and learned about the origins of community acupuncture in Black liberation movements across the US. The experience was not only theoretical. The students had the opportunity to experience acupuncture and to engage in the field visit with all their senses.
When I entered the space, I could feel like the space wanted me to be calm. The space was inviting me to take some time off, take the load off that I had, and just be in the space. The space was quiet enough, and it was dim enough, and it was really, really, really sweet. So when I sat down, I remember looking over and freaking out because the guy was going around with the needle, and he was going pretty fast. So I knew that I wasn't gonna have to be in that awkward situation for too long if the needle was pretty quick and then just leaving. When he first came over and put them in my arms, I could feel it. It was very much there, and very much it felt like anxiety. It felt like pins of anxiety on my arms, but I knew that I couldn't let that determine my whole experience. So I closed my eyes and I decided to think about it in a different way, to think about it, not that they weren't there, but that it was something else. I could feel the pins go from pain to ice, almost just pressure, like an ice cube on my arms. And from there, it felt less about ignore the pain and more about look into it. What am I exploring through? What is being touched? What is being actually exposed, I guess. And they had music, and it was really, really calming because it was just waves and beach sounds. And I found myself back in Mexico with my parents, and I could feel the water just kind of lift me up. I didn't feel as heavy. I didn't feel so scared. I felt relaxed. So giving my body that rest and my mind that place to rest, I think it was really really impactful. And when I woke up, I could feel the pins starting to fall off and they started to hurt. But that feeling of tranquility and almost release right before when I woke up was, I think, more important and the most important part of the trip.
Visiting Urbana Acupuncture inspired the students to design services that center on community and rest. For instance, a group designed a service that mirrors Urbana Acupuncture by creatively repurposing underused classrooms on campus as spaces to rest, enhanced by workshops on time management and discussion spaces to understand the connections of rest with guilt and the hustle culture. Another group thought of incorporating Urbana Acupuncture as part of a community building strategy centered around physical movement and enjoyment of open green spaces. Being intentional about the food we eat, the spaces we inhabit, the time we spend on the screen, and doing physical exercise were identified as relevant to promoting well-being by students, and service design allowed us to imagine and visualize what these practices could look like from an equity and justice standpoint. Apart from learning about service design, visiting Urbana Acupuncture was part of cultivating well-being in our classroom, giving ourselves a space to rest, to momentarily forget about academic and personal pressures, and enjoy our collective presence. It was an opportunity to connect with the sensibility and affect that are always part of services but are often under-theorized or undervalued.